Then morphological subdivisions of the cerebellum. So based on the phylogenetic and functional criteria of the cerebellum, that the cerebellum it should be divided into that the three parts, that is the archicerebellum, the paleocerebellum and the neocerebellum. So first let's see the archaeocerebellum. So the phylogenetically it is the oldest part of the cerebellum and it consists of only the two part, that is the flculonodular lobe here and the lingula. So this lingula and this flculonodular lobe. So these two part included into that the archaeocerebellum. It is chiefly vestibular in connections and concerned with the maintenance of the equilibrium, tone and the posture of the trunk muscle. So that is the important function which is done by the archaeocerebellum, which consists of the lingula and the flculonodular lobe or the flocculus. Then the next part, that is the paleocerebellum. So it is the next part of the cerebellum to appear and it consists of the anterior lobe except the lingula. So here you can see that is upper to that the primary fissure, it is called the anterior lobe. So except that the lingula, that is include the central lobule and this one, that is the culmen. So these two part that should be included into that the archaeocerebellum. Apart from this, paleocerebellum. Then apart from this, the pyramid and the uvula of inferior vermis. So here you can see that is the pyramid and this is the uvula, this one. So that is the two part, means upper two part, this one here, that is the central lobule and that is the culmen and that is the uvula and that is the pyramid. So these four parts that should be forming the paleocerebellum. Then the paleocerebellum, it is chiefly the spinocerebellar in the connection and it is concerned with the tone, posture and the crude movement of the limbs. Then the third part, that is the neocerebellum. So it is the most recent part of the cerebellum to develop and it is made up of the most of the part of the middle lobe except the pyramid and the uvula. You know that is this is the pyramid and this is the uvula. So that is the remaining part of that is the middle lobe or the posterior lobe that should be includes into that the neocerebellum. So neocerebellum that include this one part, that is the declivium tuber and that is the nodule. So this part that should be included into that the neocerebellum. So it is chiefly corticopontocerebellar in the connection and concerned with the smooth performance of the skilled voluntary movement. So that is the functions of the neocerebellum. So let's see the internal structure of the cerebellum. So the cerebellum, it is made up of thin surface layer of gray matter, the cerebellar cortex. So here you can see that is the gray matter that should be present on the peripheral side, and between the central core, that is the white matter is present. So opposite to that the brainstem and the spinal cord, we had seen that is centrally H-shaped gray matter is present and peripheral white matter is present. But in case of the cerebellum and the cerebrum, that is the peripheral the gray matter is present and centrally that is the white matter is present. So within the white matter, the central core present intercerebellar nuclei. So here you can see that is the different nuclei are present. The cerebellar cortex, it is folded. So here you can see it is folded in such way that the surface of cerebellum present a series of parallel transverse fissures and intervening narrow leaf-like bands called the folia. Then we should have to see that is the different nucleus which is present into that the cerebellum. So first, that is the dentate nucleus. So this one. So it is the most prominent of the intercerebellar nuclei and largest in the primates, especially the neocerebellum, and therefore it receives the afferent fibers from it. Then this second one, that is the embryoniform nucleus. So this one. So it is oval in shape and situated medial to that the dentate nucleus. So here it is nucleus of paleocerebellum, and hence it is also receives afferent fibers from it. Then the third one, that is the globase nucleus. So this one. So it is rounded in shape and lies between the embryoniform and the Fastigiae nuclei. So here you can see that is the Fastigiae nuclei and this is the embryoniform nuclei. So between that is the small nucleus is present. The globase and the embryoniform nuclei together are sometimes referred as the nucleus interpositions. Then the last one, that is the fastigial nucleus. So this one. It lies near to the midline in the vermis. So here you can see that is the vermis and close to the roof of fourth ventricle. And it is the nucleus of archaeocerebellum, and hence it receives the afferent fibers from the flocculonodular lobe. So that is the four nucleus, they are present in relations with the cerebellum. Then next to it, let's see that is the histology of the cerebellum. So the cerebellum cortex consists of the following three distinct layers. So here first layer, that is the outer molecular layer. So this one. Then the next layer, that is the intermediate Purkinje cell layer. So here you can see. And the third layer, that is the inner granular layer. So this one. So first, that is the molecular layer, or that is called the plexiform layer. So this one. So it is mainly consist of the dendrites of the Purkinje cell. So here you can see that is the yellow color cells are present. It is called the Purkinje cells, and from this, that is the branching process are formed. So it is called the dendrites of the Purkinje cell. So in this layer, that is the dendrites of the Purkinje cells are present, and few nerve cells are also present into this region. The nerve cells are of two types, that is the basket cells and the stellate cells. So here you can see that is this is the basket cells are present, and that is the stellate cells are present. Then second, the Purkinje cell layer. So this one, yellow color layer. So it consists of the single row of large flask shaped cell called the Purkinje cell. So this one. The outgoing Purkinje axon consists of the sole output from the cerebellar cortex. This one. Then the third layer, that is the granular layer. So this one. So the inner granular layer consists of the numerous closely packed small granular cells. So here you can see, and a few large Golgi cells. So most of that is the granule cells are present. So this one here, that is the small granule cells are present, and the large cells, that is called the Golgi cells. Then the intrinsic neuron of the cerebellar cortex. So there are 5 intrinsic neurons in the cerebellar cortex are present. So first, that is the Purkinje cells. So here that should be present. Second one, that is the granular cells. So this one, that should be present. Third one, that is the stellate cell. This one. Fourth one, that is the basket cell, and the fifth one, this one, that is the Golgi cells. So these are the tissues or the nerve tissue that should be present into that the cerebellum. Then let's see the blood supply or the arterial supply of the cerebellum. So the arterial supply of the cerebellum are the three pairs of this cerebellar artery. First, that is the superior cerebellar artery. So this one. So superior cerebellar artery, it is the branch of basilar artery. So this one you can see the basilar artery, and it is supply to the superior surface of the cerebellum. The next one, the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. So this one. So that is also the branch of the basilar artery, and it is supply to the anterior part of inferior surface of the cerebellum. Then the third one, that is the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. So this one. So it is the branch of vertebral artery. So here you can see a pair of the vertebral artery which supply the posterior part of the inferior surface of the cerebellum. So that is the arterial supply of the cerebellum. Then next to it, let's see the clinical or the applied anatomy. So before start the clinical anatomy, let's see the functions of the different part of the cerebellum. So first, that is the flocculus or the flocculonodular lobe. So it should be done the function that is act as a vestibular system and controlling the equilibrium of the body. Second one, that is the vermis. So this one. So vermis, it controls the muscles of trunk, neck, shoulder and the hips. Then the third one, that is the intermediate zone. So this is the intermediate zone. So it controls the muscles of hand, finger, feet and the toes. And then the last part, that is the lateral zone of the cerebellum. So it is associated area of the brain and involves and planning and the program of the muscular activities. So these are the different function which is done by the different parts of the cerebellum. Then the clinical point, that is the lesion of the cerebellum. So cerebellar lesion due to the trauma or the vascular occlusion or the tumors that can occur, the number of sign and symptom which togetherly calls the cerebellar syndrome. So these characteristic features is seen into that the cerebellar syndrome, that is the first is generalized muscular hypotonia, means that is the all the muscular activity that should be slowed down. That means the staggering gait, that means the patient walks with the legs well apart, and the ataxia. So ataxia means the inability to maintain the balance while walking, and the staggering gait means patient walks with the legs well apart. Then the second one, intestinal tremors. Then the third one, the adiadochokinesia. So in this, the inability to perform rapid and altering opposite movements, that means the pronation and the supination. So patient is called to do the prone and the supine position of the hand. So patient is confused and unable to do that the opposite function. Third one, that is the nystagmus. Nystagmus means that is the involuntary to and fro oscillatory movement of the eyeballs while looking to that the sides. Then next to it, that is the scanning pitch. So scanning pitch, it shows that is the explosive and the jerky speech. Then falling on the side of the lesion on closing of the eye. So these are the symptoms that should be seen in the cerebellar syndrome. Then the next clinical point, so if there is the thrombosis of one of the 6 arteries that should be occurs, which neutralizing the cerebellum, so that is the cerebellum cognitive effective syndrome that should be done. And in this syndrome, that is the different symptoms are seen. That is the patient show intentional and grammatical errors in the speech and the patchy memory loss. Then the involvement of the vermis that should be result in the dealing of the emotional response. So these are the symptoms that should be seen in the cerebellum cognitive affective syndrome. Then next to it, that is the lesion should be occurs on the anterior lobe of the cerebellum. So you know the anterior lobe, the middle or the posterior lobe, and the flculonodular lobe. So three lobes are present. So if that is the anterior lobe lesion should be occurs, it causes the gait ataxia. Then there is incoordination of the lower limb resulting in the staggering gait and inability to walk in the straight line. It is also seen like the alcoholics. Then second one, that is the neocerebellar lesion. In this lesion, it causes incoordination of the voluntary movement of the upper limbs, and result is that is the intentional tremor, the action tremor, and overshoot movements of the upper limb. Then in this lesion, the speech is also defective. The phonation, it is defective due to loss of smoothness of the speech muscle, and it should be less coordination occur in the muscles of lips, tongues, and palates, and because of the speech is occurs the defective. Then if the lesion should be occurs on the vermis, so it lead to the truncal ataxia in the connection of the vermis to the vestibular nuclei. So the nystagmus, it is due to the loss of labyrinthine connection of the vermis, and vermis is also related with that the emotions. So that symptoms that should be also seen in leading with that the vermis when the lesion should be occurs. So these are the clinical points related with the cerebellum.